bringing sports, entertainment, and technology podcasts together. This is SPNT.
You're listening to the Who-Dey Weekly Podcast. Who-Dey Weekly is brought to you by Stitcher.com. Download the Stitcher Smart Radio app today at Stitcher.com/SPNT. What's happening, Bengals fans? Nick Superling here for the Who-Dey Weekly, episode 91. I'm calling this episode "The Grass Isn't Always Greener," and I think we all know why. Glad you could join us here for Who-Dey Weekly, alongside my co-host, Mickey Metzer. Again, I'm Nick Superling. Mickey, what's happening, my friend?
Not much, man. I hope you made it safely home after the game. It was good hanging out.
It was great hanging out on the Who-Dey bus. You and I, you whipped up on me in Tecmo Super Bowl. That was embarrassing.
It happens to everyone, man. Don't worry about it.
It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I was under the weather during the game. I didn't get to yell as much as I had wanted to, but and I'll make sure I post this picture as well. I tweeted it over the weekend. I wore my Carson Palmer jersey. I taped over the nameplate with a piece of paper that said "Quitter" on it, just like a lot of Bengals fans I saw down there at Paul Brown Stadium on Sunday. But all in all, it was a good time. It also helped that the Bengals played well, and they beat the crap out of Carson Palmer. Bengals win big, 34-10. Now 6-5 on the year, looking to improve that mark. Right now, tied for one of those wild card spots. Although Pittsburgh holds the tiebreaker, but we'll get into all that and a whole bunch more here on the podcast. Don't forget, you can email us at podcast@whodayfans.com and give us a follow on Twitter. We are at Who-Dey Weekly. You're gonna have to put up with my hoarse voice this week for 40 minutes. I apologize. I'm screamed out. I didn't even scream all that much. I was so sick on Sunday, but it was a lot of fun. Had a good time. But first things first, Carson Palmer returning to Cincinnati, stepping foot in Paul Brown Stadium, a stadium in which he said he would never step foot in, Mickey. And he comes in, his first drop back, and he just gets pummeled by Geno Atkins.
It's almost like he caught him in the air and just put him through the turf. But my question to you, Nick, is were you booing?
Oh, that was actually on my list here. If you see my sheet of paper, my first question says, "Come on, you booed Mickey, admit it."
It didn't happen, man.
Not once?
Nope. Did not boo. And actually, man, the only time I honestly felt like booing was when the refs blew that call for the Raiders and then took like 38 minutes to talk about it on the field. It's like, just let the dudes play the game. But, yeah, I didn't even boo them. But, yeah, I'm not a booer. I mean, it's just not my thing. So I get it. Everyone did. They did it all game. I saw some posts from Raiders blogs where they thought the Bengals fans were classless, which I think is hilarious.
That's ironic.
They talked about how Carson Palmer's carrying that team and he's the only player there. And I mean, I really wanted to be like, I remember those days. I remember thinking that same stuff. We'll see what you think. I don't know. He might not even have a job there next year, but
nope.
Yep, I did not boo.
I booed every time he came onto the field. I booed when he threw the touchdown pass, although he got clobbered throwing that touchdown pass. But, all in all, he didn't have a very good game. And, in fact, none of the Raiders did. I booed definitely during the fight, which we'll get into here shortly. But, it was just all in all, it was a good day. I'm glad that he didn't come in and beat us so that he could, one-up us and say, "I told you so." But, I'm happy. I'm just glad they won, because then we would have had to have the what-ifs and all that other jazz. But I think, honestly, we're in a much better position today than we were, 18 months ago when he was still the starting quarterback of this team. So I'll take it.
Totally. I mean, I wouldn't trade. Like we talked about it, in the past, when anything with Carson Palmer came up, I wouldn't trade it at all. And I mean, I have no ill will towards him. I mean, I think you kind of reap what you sow, and he's getting paid back for what he did. I do think he quit on the team. I mean, I firmly stand with all of you that said that. He can get on his perch and talk about ownership, and he didn't want to do that. But he didn't have to sign his ridiculous $100 million deal with the same devil that he then refused to play for.
Right.
So I don't feel sorry for him. I just think that the way he went about it was gutless, and he's kind of getting what he asked for, so it's fine with us. He's probably going to watch the Bengals go to the playoffs twice, and he's just going to wither out in Oakland. I mean, it's kind of fitting.
It's kind
of the same path that Chad Johnson took, really. I mean, he wanted out. He saw the grass was greener on the other side, and his career fizzled after that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about your Roosters coming to hatch. Did you see today that Rolando McClain, the linebacker for the Raiders, wants out?
I did not see that.
Yeah, how funny is that? I mean,
that's funny.
Again, you know what? I'm just glad they won. It wasn't even close. Let's get into this a little deeper here, though, Mickey. The tone was set early. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis probably should have had 3 rushing touchdowns. 2 of them, obviously, they were close. They were iffy. But he had 129 yards of rushing. As a team, the Bengals rushed for 221, all while the Raiders total, this is passing and rushing, Mickey, only managed 218. So the Bengals outrushed the total number of yards that the Raiders gained. How have you ever seen a Bengals team do that? I haven't.
They may have in the past. Nothing I can remember, but we were aided by some big runs that were broken, but the running game was solid. We never went away from it. I say both running backs had showed a lot and had just incredible presence at the line of scrimmage, and they found holes and they got in there. Yeah, it stinks that Ben Jarvis didn't finish his runs, but I'm more upset by the second one where we had to settle for a field goal when it was 1st and goal with the 1. But I don't know. Like that's kind of the resurgence of the rushing game we've seen in these past weeks, and I like it. I think it makes the Bengals a stronger team, wears down the defense. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun having that phase of the game pop up when no one expected it, because it just makes your team that much stronger.
When you look at the offense as a whole, Dalton with the 3 touchdown passes. AJ Green's streak is snapped. That's unfortunate, but he wasn't going to catch a touchdown every game. It was the streak was bound to come to an end at some point. But the one guy, Mickey, who is continuing to do well and getting all kinds of praise is your boy Mohamed Sanu.
It's about time you guys caught up.
We were caught up.
Talking about. I'm saying we need to make sure that the coaches are listening to this podcast. We know what we're talking about here. He's not putting up crazy stats in the yardage department, but the catches that he's making are big time catches when the Bengals need them. And that one-handed grab is just sick. I mean, it's been on in the Sports Center top 10. The NFL plays of the weekend. It was an incredible catch by a rookie. That if you just look at the highlight film, you're going to assume that's AJ Green making that play,
right?
And it's Mohamed Sanu, a guy who, the praised people in Cincinnati said he's not ready. He's not, and I'm not going to pick on the guy because I like him, but Mo Egger still talks about how his resurgence is because he's finally getting it. But I would argue that he's probably the same caliber player he has been all year, and we failed in the beginning of the season to get him on the field, and I think that's a failure on the coaches, like we talked about a couple episodes ago. What's different about this team now than it was when we were losing to the Browns and the Dolphins? There's nothing,
right,
except the way we've approached the game, attacked, kept our foot on the gas, and used the younger players like we screened for then. So I don't know. I'm pumped that Sanu's getting his chance. He's making the most of it, obviously, and it's fun to watch him. It's fun to watch him make those plays. And Kurt in the chat room's talking about, is he going to get the same amount of playing time when Baby Hawk comes back? I should hope so. Baby Hawk made some huge plays for this team, but he's more of the guy that you want to get the ball in space and see what he can do, whereas Sanu's the guy that's going to put his body in between the defender and the quarterback and make the tough third down catch or make the touchdown catch. Like, all of his catches have seemed clutch because they were made at times when the Bengals really needed a play. And that's Hines Ward. I think, I don't know. I think that this is the type of player that this guy could turn into, and it's just awesome to see it finally happening in his rookie year.
You know, too, the other thing that doesn't get a lot of talk or praise is that he's versatile. I mean, he can play any one of those positions on the receiver, or at receiver, I mean. But they've also lined him up in the backfield at running back. He's had a couple of rushes. We all know that he can throw the football. We saw that in the Redskins game. So I'd like to see them do a lot more as far as being creative with him and moving him around instead of just playing him opposite of AJ. I think there are other ways to utilize him, and they're doing it. But I'd actually like to see them take it a step further and maybe let him throw the ball more. But at the same time, it's tough when you got a quarterback in Andy Dalton, who, by the way, watching NFL Network tonight, Kurt Warner rates Andy Dalton this week as his third best quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if you had a chance to see that, Mickey. Number
I didn't see that.
3.
That's pretty awesome.
Behind, who was he behind? He was behind Tom Brady and
Cam Newton this week.
No, it wasn't Cam. And now that's gonna bother me that I can't think of who the other person was.
Griffin?
Yes, thank you. Robert Griffin was second. So
both those guys had great games too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy Dalton's getting the recognition. He's got 23 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions. He's got 9 touchdown passes in his last 4 games and no picks. It's amazing how when you don't turn a ball over, the kind of success you're going to see as an offense. And we go back, they've won 3 games in a row now. They probably should have won 4. They should have won that game against Denver, let that game get away. But, win 3 in a row, get back over 500. The one thing, that I've noticed about Dalton, and again, I don't know if you've taken a look at the film or anything like that, but I've noticed that early on in the season and before the bye week, he would drop back to pass, and he would have happy feet. Like, as soon as he dropped back, the first read, he was letting it go. And that's also why I think you saw a lot of times the defensive linemen, they're jumping because they know he's throwing it, so they're batting it down. I've noticed over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we haven't seen a ball batted down at the line of scrimmage. I'm noticing, too, he's holding on to it a little bit longer, letting the play develop, which is allowing guys like Green to get open, Sanu to get open. Even Jermaine Gresham's benefiting from this as well. I just think, and I don't know if it was something that happened over the bye week, but you look at what he's been doing, Mickey, and he's been outstanding.
The happy feet was something that I know Gruden talked about before, that he was getting rid of, he was forcing the play to develop before it was really developing. And obviously they probably worked on that at the bye, but yeah, I think that his progression reads have been much stronger in this streak than they were at the beginning of the season before he was forcing the ball to his read, way too early. And now he's letting the play develop and he's finding everyone that's open. It's pretty awesome. Dalton's played extremely well.
He has played extremely well, and now this is probably my most favorite time of the week, Mickey. Our boy, John from Kentucky, on the line. John, what's happening, man?
What's going on, gentlemen? Love your show. Thanks for letting me on again.
Hey, John, I got a story for you. Are you ready for this?
I am ready. Fire away.
All right, so Sunday night, I'm getting ready. I'm loading up the car. We just left my folks' house in Westchester, Ohio. We're heading back north, and we're driving along. We're getting ready to stop at UDF to fill up our gas tank. And I'm listening to Ken Brew on 700 WLW. And all of a sudden, he goes, hey, on the line, John from Richmond. And guess who it was, folks? Our boy, John from Kentucky, on the big one, 700 WLW. I heard you, John. I heard you loud and clear, man.
Well, you know what? I agree with what Ken said Sunday night in that you don't have to have, an Emmitt Smith for a running back, provided your offensive line opens up some good holes. You can have an average running back like Green Ellis, and he will get some good yardage, provided the line opens the door.
Well, I just want to let you know I did hear you, and it's nice that you're calling other people other than us to talk Bengals. But you had some good points about Carson Palmer, that you were glad that he held out, and you were glad that he quit on us because of he made us better today.
Carson Palmer was a glorified Tim Couch. His last season with the Bengals, I had told my son, I said, look, I'm not watching him next year. I've had it, okay? And then it wasn't long after that he decided to leave. And as far as the $100 million, what idiot? $100 million? That's Roethlisberger money. I mean, I don't mean to be too obnoxious here, but Carson Palmer, as I said, was a glorified Tim Couch, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, he's not making the Raiders better.
No, of course not. That's another thing. I thought to myself when the Raiders, they offered, was it 2 number 1 picks or a number 1 and a number 2?
It was a number 1 and then a number 1 if they made the AFC Championship game, I believe. But as it stands right now, it's definitely a second rounder.
Okay, so it's a second rounder. But either way, they gave that up for Carson Palmer. Have the Raiders never seen Carson Palmer play? Carson Palmer was not a very good quarterback and still isn't, in my opinion. I'll take Andy Dalton over him any day.
Well, you have to remember, too, the person orchestrating that deal was Hugh Jackson, who was a big Carson Palmer fan, was his coach at USC, obviously coached him with the Bengals. So they have a little bit of a history. So I can understand at that point making a deal for him. Now, that said, I wouldn't have traded the picks that they traded. But, Mike Brown wasn't going to give up Carson Palmer without a first-rounder. So if you look at what happened on Sunday, it's a win for the Bengals. We certainly made out on that deal. And then, to boot, we've got their coach on our sidelines now. So thanks to you.
Exactly. Well, the Bengals, hey, they are doing great. I'm glad, Palmer's gone. He's been gone a couple of years. The guy not only had a bad attitude, after his knee got hurt, he just wasn't the same. I mean, we can all agree to that, can't we?
Yeah, it's not even close, right, Mick?
Not even close at all.
So, give us your thoughts, John, real quick on San Diego.
San Diego, well, they've been beaten by Cleveland.
So have we.
They are. Yeah. However, out on the West Coast, the Chargers tend to play better at home. But the way Cincinnati is playing, I really do think the Bengals will win that game. I think they'll beat Dallas. And let me say this. I don't want to see the Bengals go undefeated until the end of the season. We need to lose one game because I feel like if we go undefeated all the way to the end of the season, we'll just be due for a loss in the playoffs. So let's drop a game. I'll say either at Pittsburgh or maybe even the last game against Baltimore. One of those two games. Drop one game, and then let's shoot for the Super Bowl. That's what I'm hoping for.
I like the sound of that, John. John, where are you headed this week?
Well, I'm kind of on standby. I'm in Indiana at the moment, and they're going to let me know in the morning where I'll be going. So right now it's anyone's guess. It could be Los Angeles. It could be Cincinnati. Who knows?
Well, good luck. Safe travels this week. And as always, thank you for calling our podcast. We love that you call in every week. We certainly appreciate it.
Love your program. I'll call you next week. And Who-Dey!
All right, Who-Dey. That is John from Kentucky. Believe it or not, Mickey Bader thought that was John's real truck horn.
That would be awesome if you could do that.
So cool. But it was, I was sitting there. My wife's talking to me in the car. something important too. I'm like, shh. Oh my gosh, that's John. So funny. Anyway, that was my cool story from Sunday. And again, we love that John calls in each and every week. Let's do something we haven't done in a little while, and that is our Who-Dey Weekly poll question.
It's time now for the Who-Dey Weekly poll question.
This week we ask, what was your favorite part of Sunday? Your answers are the 4 sacks of Palmer, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis getting 129 yards rushing, Dalton's 3 touchdown passes, or Whitworth just going off on some Raiders. That was a bizarre turn of events. Luckily, that was literally right in front of where Tim and I were sitting Sunday, Mickey. I don't know if you had a good view of the brawl, but what was your favorite part of Sunday?
Yeah, that was right where we were too. I don't know. It's tough. Like, I want to say the rushing game because I think that was huge. I do like Witt. I like what Witt did. I like his comments afterward even more. about the contracts. Like, I thought that was pretty solid.
Yeah, he said, I've only got 2 contracts in my life, one with my wife and one to protect Andy Dalton. I thought that was real classy.
I mean, that's huge. That's real class. I mean, he's just a classy dude. So, you know what? I'll go with that. I'll go with that as my favorite part.
Yeah,
Not
I
the
voted.
fighting, not the fighting, but the fact that he stood up for, his quarterback.
No, I agree with you. That's what I voted for as well. It's tough, though. I mean, this is the second straight week the law firm had 100 yards. And watching the game and being there and seeing the holes as big as – I mean, they were huge holes, Mickey. It's a shame he didn't have 3 touchdowns.
It is. I mean, he lost gas at the end, but he's not used to running that far.
That's true. Again, he was great. The fact that they rushed – again, they had more rushing yards than the Raiders had total yards. And Dalton with the 3 touchdown passes as well. Still, a fantastic day all around for the Bengals. Huge win, 34-10. So, again, our poll question, what was your favorite part of Sunday? Log on to whodayfans.com to place your vote. All right, let's do some shout-outs.
Shout-outs!
Who you got this week, Mickey?
I got a few. I got some new followers.
Go for it.
I'm going Vinny Gage. His Twitter handle is @xxvinlarxx. And then I got the band My Sister Sarah, who my friend Nick told me that the Bengals are undefeated when they play the pregame. So
Yeah.
I hope the Bengals book them, for the next 2 home games. They're at My Sister Sarah. And then Chris Hunt, who when I click on his page has huge Ohio State emblem, which
nice.
Makes me happy. So he's at WVA Buckeye, but he's also a Bengals fan, so that's awesome.
All right. I've got his name's Clinton Cunningham. He is at Clint ING Ham. He says, let me get a shout out. I'm a new listener, but have been there for my Bengals through the ups and downs. So there's your shout out, Clinton. Cody Chalmers, you get a shout out to Roger Neer also as well. And John Loy, our friend down in Australia. We miss him in the chat room. Hope all is well, mate, down in Australia. Hope you're enjoying the 6-5 Bengals. The smooth styling of one Mr. I don't understand. What am I missing something, Mickey?
Missing something? What do you mean?
Your chat room message about the smooth styling of one Mr. Nick Superly.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's loving your voice, and Reed's actually missing it. So
Yeah, Reed needs to get a computer. All right.
Uh-huh.
So those are again one last announcement or note to pass along. Had a great time this weekend with Daryl and his wife Jen, winners of the 85 for 85 contest. They came down and tailgated with us at Longworth Hall a little bit. Mickey and I and Tim had a chance to meet him. Had a chance to meet Kurt on the Who-Dey fans bus as well. It was good meeting him. Unfortunately, I don't remember his friend's name, but they had a lot of fun. Kurt in the chat room says that he also has no voice, kind of like myself. Now, I didn't yell as much as, say, probably Kurt did, but again, it was a lot of fun. His name is Mike, by the way. It was cool meeting him and cool meeting Kurt face-to-face outside of Skype. And just a reminder, we do record this show live each and every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time at whodayfans.com/video. We'd love to see you in the chat room. It's a lot of fun. And we do video. Mickey's got his Ohio State hat on. I'm wearing my Notre Dame shirt in honor of my Fighting Irish going 12-0. But I'm sure we'll have all kinds of time over the next month and a half to talk about that. But again, if you want to check it out each and every Wednesday, we're live 9 o'clock Eastern at whodayfans.com/video. All right, so let's look ahead, Mickey. Big game this weekend. The Bengals historically tend to not do well on the road, especially on the West Coast. But over the last couple of years, I think they're getting better. Last year they went out to Seattle and really put a licking on the Seahawks, who at the time were playing well and had one of the best defenses in the NFL. They were able to move the football. And one thing I remember about that game was Brandon Tate's punt return, and that was also Pac-Man's first game back, I believe, and he had a long punt return but got hurt on it. So, moving out west and playing out there, I think they're getting better at it. But when you look at who they're going up against, San Diego, who lost a heartbreaker to the Ravens on a 4th and 29 play that should have never been converted in the first place. They're reeling. They're 4-7. There's all this talk about their coach getting fired. It's nice that there are other teams in the league going through what we seem to go through each and every year. But I think this is a good opportunity for the Bengals to really learn something about themselves.
I agree, and I mean it's like we were talking about earlier. It's tough in the NFL to go on the road and win, and especially tough when it's that far away. But I think that it does play in the Bengals' favor. This is another team that turns over the ball. It's another team that their weapons are older. They're not clicking. They're playing for a coach who every week there's rumors he's going to get fired, and I don't think the players care. I think that's to a point where everyone's kind of tired of him up there. So I just hope that the Bengals continue to do what they've done. If the Bengals beat the Giants and then lose the next game, you look at it as like, all right, it was one of those Bengals games where they won a game they weren't supposed to. But in the past 3 games, they've completely dominated the competition. So it looks like that this is no longer a fluke, and now it's the team that we're watching is the actual Bengals. And you talk about historically they do struggle on the West Coast, but also historically they start seasons really strong and fade in the stretch. And I would argue that this year it's kind of the opposite. We started pretty poorly, and then at the stretch we're picking up steam, and other people are national people are talking about like how hot the Bengals are because they're not just squeaking out wins. They're not beating the Chargers on a 4th and 29 play. They're destroying everyone that comes to them, and whether it's the Raiders or if it's the Giants, who everyone's praising now because they beat Green Bay. Don't forget the Bengals.
They didn't just beat
made them
Green
look
Bay.
silly.
They didn't just beat Green Bay. I mean, they crushed.
Oh yeah,
Green
they
Bay.
killed them.
No,
Which I'm not saying the Bengals would have that. One team plays another team totally different.
right.
But the Giants game before that, because they had their bye in between, they got just housed by the Bengals. So they can compete with any team in this league, it seems. You just hope that they put together the good game plan and the players believe and they do it. I have no doubt that the Bengals can go to San Diego and just continue what they're doing and destroy them.
I know that the last 2 weeks have been cupcakes. I mean, the Raiders are not very good. The Chiefs, are not very good. The win against New York, I think, was impressive. And in fact, it's the first time a Bengals team has won 3 straight games by 18 points or more since 1976. It's been a long time. And, in that year, they went 10-4 and didn't even make the postseason. So, I mean, hey, a lot going for this team. They're on a roll. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win big. Let's do some bold predictions, Mickey. Give me a bold prediction for Sunday.
I'm going to say Brandon Tate takes a kickback. You want to go bold? I'll go bold.
That is very bold. Any takers in the chat room? Because that would be wow. There were a couple times on Sunday. Kurt is booing. There were a couple times he returned kickoffs and didn't get to the 20, and you're just like, take a knee, man. Come on. There's no reason to be catching it 108 yards deep. Like whatever.
No, I totally agree, but I also think that that just. I don't know. I think that plays into it. No one's afraid to kick to him, and eventually there's going to be that seam. And he's the type of player that if he does get in the open, he's going to go.
Right.
He's not gonna die on the one. And the chat room's going nuts, but I'm not saying I think Tate is going to carry this team or anything. It's a bold prediction. I think the guys do. Look at his past. He's kind of a terrible player, and then he'll come through big at one point in the season. It's kind of like my golf game. Like I go out there and just spray balls all over, and then I hit one good shot, and I want to go out and play again. So I just say he gets his due this week in San Diego, and if a guy takes a kickback, I don't care who it is, it's going to help your team immensely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a good bold. It's a good. That's why we call it bold predictions, right? Kurt in the chat room says Sanu gets 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing, and 1 passing. We'd like to see that happen for sure.
I wonder if that's ever happened.
Oh, I'm sure it has. I think Cam Newton did it last year.
He caught 1.
I believe. We'll have to look that up. I'm pretty sure he did. My bold prediction, I say that Andy Dalton throws for 400 yards. Didn't throw for very many yards this past week, but
you know why that's a lot though?
Because they're running the football.
That and their defense is just shutting people down. So I mean, he's not starting every drive at the 10. You know what I mean?
Good point.
Against the Giants, they couldn't get past the 30.
And the chat room says if he throws for that many, the Bengals lose. That's a good point. Okay, I'll change my bold prediction. Why you guys got to talk me out of this thing, man? Fine. The law firm goes for $1.75. Is that better?
Wow.
That might be a stretch too. That's bold, right?
That is very bold.
He only needs to gain 50 more yards than what he did on Sunday. You know, it's doable. But we'd love to hear your bold predictions. Email us at podcast@whodayfans.com. So let's take a little bit deeper look here as far as the score prediction. How do you see this game going for the Bengals on Sunday? San Diego coming off a very tough loss. Give me your outlook. Give me a score, and how are they going to do it?
I'm going to go. Let me think. I'm going to say 34-17. I'm going to say we double them up.
All right.
I just don't think they can hang. Just the way the Bengals are playing, I don't see it. And I hope it's a fast start again. Like, I think that's kind of been key to the Bengals too. They score early and put the opponent on their heels. So that's I'm going 34-17.
So you're saying they're going to win by 17, which would be 4 straight wins of 17 points or more, which would be impressive. I'll say Bengals win. I think they're going to run the football a lot, keep Phillip Rivers on the sideline because he can at times be dangerous. But I think that the way that this defense is playing, I last week I said that they were going to sack Palmer 8 times, and then, in the first 2 drives, I think they had 3 sacks of him. So I'm thinking, my prediction is going to come true. And then they only had 4. But I'll say the defense probably ends up with 3 sacks. I'll go 2 picks, and I think that Ben Jarvis rushes for $1.75. I think they win. I'll go 24-10. 24-10, that's my final. Kurt in the chat room says 31-13. I see another one from somebody anonymously in here says 27-17. But again, I think we all would agree this is a very winnable game. I think we could also all agree that if they don't win this game, it will be a huge disappointment going into the Cowboys game next Sunday at Paul Brown Stadium. Would you not agree, Mick?
I totally agree. I mean, I think they have to win these next 2 games. Have to in a sense that they're your most winnable games on the schedule right now, I think. So I agree with Anonymous in the chat room. If you are a legitimate playoff team, you have to win on the road, and this is the time to prove that you can do that with a decent team. I'm not going to say they're a great team. They probably play better at home, but yeah, Reed just came through with a 42-3 prediction, which is right about par for Reed.
That's putting it nicely, I guess, right?
No, I mean, I agree. I love his optimism.
I do too. He still thinks they're going to go undefeated the rest of the season. John from Kentucky, who called in earlier, says he does not want that to happen. I can see his point. You want to get that loss out of the way. But Reed's bold prediction, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and Cedric Pierman rush for over 100 yards each. I'm assuming that's what he means. That's a good one. Pierman, again, had a nice couple runs there on Sunday. He's getting better and better at running back as well. I like that they're using him more. But as far as I just think, again, and you said it too, Mickey, if they want to be in the playoffs, you got to win this game. This is a team that is beatable. They're down. There's no way that they can lose this game and hope to make the postseason because they need these wins. That 4-game losing streak kind of eliminated any kind of letdown that they could have now. I mean, they have to be almost perfect the rest of the way out. And again, hopefully they win and move to 7-5 on the year. The game's a 4:30 kickoff out on the West Coast. I know I'm looking forward to it. You're looking forward to it. We're both predicting wins. We want to hear your thoughts. Podcast at whodayfans.com is the email address. And give us a follow on Twitter. We are at Who-Dey Weekly. Mickey, my throat cannot take any more. Every time I get handed over to you, I have to mute the mic and cough. And can't take it anymore. And I apologize, everybody, that you had to put up with my raspy voice. But again, Mickey, thanks again for everything on Sunday. Thanks for hope you're enjoying that Bengals glass that you already had.
That I already had.
Didn't you already have a Bengals glass that you had gotten at?
Not as cool as that one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you like it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, thanks for everything, and thanks for kicking my butt in Tecmo Super Bowl. We'll have to figure out a way to rematch.
It's what I do.
Mickey beat me with the Bengals, and I was the Lions, and it was not even close, and we'll just leave it at that. That is going to wrap things up for episode 91. We're coming up on 100 here, folks. Again, that email address, podcast@whodeyfans.com. Give us a follow on Twitter at Who-Dey Weekly. Who-Dey Weekly is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. For my co-host, Mickey Metzer, and our good friend, Tim Bates, I'm Nick Sudling. Hey, we'll see you next week, episode 92 of Who-Dey Weekly. Who-Dey. Who-Dey.